Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so excited about today's show because I don't know anything about romance, mystery, suspense, and mainstream fiction. And today I'm going to learn a lot about that, and so are you. I'm so excited to have our guest today, Kayla Perrin. She's an author. She's been featured on television shows like Entertainment Tonight Canada, Who's Afraid of Happy Endings. She's been on USA Today, Essence, as a best-selling author with over 40 books. And so, Kayla, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have you because I saw one of the places that you've been published is Harlequin. And I
Yes.
remember a friend of mine from junior high school. She was an avid reader, and I was never into reading, but she was like that bookworm, and she would always carry around her Harlequin romances. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what the heck is that all about? I have no idea. So I'm curious to find your story and like, how did you get into writing? How did you get into these various genres that you're writing in? What's your favorite if you have one? And I have a lot of questions to come, but why don't you go ahead and share
Okay.
with us your story, like how you got started? Were you like my friend Kathy carrying around those Harlequin romances everywhere?
I was not carrying around Harlequin romances everywhere, but I had a friend like Kathy, and her name is Leslie. And she would carry one of these small, thin, red covered books wherever we went, even at the club. So if she was bored at the club, she'd just go sit down and she'd open up a book. And I finally said, "What are you reading?" And it was these Harlequin books. And I went to her place and she had like tons of them. And I thought, well, why don't I read one of these and see what all the fuss is about? Because a lot of girls will start reading, let's say, their mom's Harlequin romances when they're 13, 14, under the covers, hiding and doing that. And that wasn't me. I was an avid reader, but I was reading, Nancy Drew, kind of suspenseful stuff, some paranormal stuff, not specifically romance. But once I cracked the spine of one of those Harlequins, I thought, okay, I see the appeal and there's a big market here. And that kind of gave me the push
Mm.
to even consider writing for them because I realized their readers devour a lot of books, like your friend and my friend.
Oh, that's a good point, right? Because what you did is you did a little bit of market research and
Yep.
were you interested in it besides that at the beginning, or did you have to kind of like get interested?
I think what I realized is that I was always writing. So when I was a teen, I was writing stories, and they tended to have, I really love suspense or sort of the paranormal, maybe a dead body here, but there was also a romance. And then I realized there is a market for that. There's a market for romance with the suspense. So it was kind of just changing my direction a little bit and figuring out how to make it work for me in that genre because there's a huge genre that features some suspense with the romance. Kind of gives you a bit of both, best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's so true. And so, anybody listening here today thinking that, what you're doing might not work, or, just go look at the market and see what's
Oh,
happening. And this was a great, great tip just right there, right out of the gate. Thank you for that. And so
you're welcome.
you've been on, like you said, you've been on USA Today. You have a lot of different accolades, to you, South Florida Business Journal, the Toronto Star, we got Kensington Books, HarperCollins. You just the list goes on and on and on of your successes. So congratulations on
Thank
finding that
you.
that sweet spot, right? And then just going for it.
Thank you. That's the title of one of my books with HarperCollins, The Sweet Spot.
Oh, it is?
Yes, it is.
That's that's a
A
great title,
football
of
player.
course,
Yeah.
for your
Yeah.
romance. Well, let's talk about you. I see I have four books listed here. I know you have a lot of books to your name, novels. And so one is A Second Chance for Love. We have Undeniable Attraction, Undeniable Passion, and The Reverend. And talking about those books right there, like where did those titles come from? Where did the storylines come from? How do you come up with this stuff? And how do you write so much? It's like
Oh
a
goodness,
lot.
I don't know. And for to some degree, I can look. You always look at someone else who somehow handles even writing more, and then you think, how am I not writing more? And then you're like, no, no, wait a minute, I'm doing a lot. So A, never compare yourself to someone else, but B, um, as I said, as we talked about, writing for Harlequin is something that I was doing, and I was writing for their Kamani line, which tended to feature African American heroes and heroines. and people tend to like sweet romances, a little spicy, whatever it is. But I was always throwing in something with suspense. So if you see on my website, I have a Love on Fire series that has to do with firefighters and a crime that goes throughout 4 of the books. And my editor said to me at one point, Kayla, maybe we should have you like not put a dead body, just like write, a romance without that. So I created a small town called Sheridan Falls and decided to kind of go for, just a more, when I say simpler, a story without the intrigue level of that. And that's where Undeniable Attraction comes in. And it was the first of these books, and it was having 4 brothers, because women love to come back to continuing stories, and they seem to love the focus on the hero. So Aaron Burke in the first one is a soccer star, and he reconnects with an old flame who he fell in love with while they were camp counselors, and she's come back to town for a wedding, and they reconnect. But of course, he broke her heart. So you got that push-pull. She doesn't want to give him a second chance, but man, he looks good. And, they've grown up a little bit and matured. So I had the second book as well. The second book is Undeniable Passion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I really love that story. And then I had the third book proposal I was giving them. And then they decided to cancel the line of Kamani romances for, the African-American, that specific African-American line. And my editor said to me, well, Kayla, you always liked suspense. So why don't we move you to the intrigue line, which was the line I would have wanted to write for from the beginning, because Harlequin intrigue has as much suspense in it as it has romance, sometimes more suspense. But it kind of killed my series as I was, just kind of ready to do the next couple books. And I've had readers saying, well, when is one of the other brothers going to get their story? So what I did was I kept the small town, Sheridan Falls, and I created the next story for intrigue with a mystery in there. There was an unsolved mystery, a cold case from 12 years before in high school, where one girl, her best friend, and a couple other people got killed at a party. She'd left early. There was always some suspicion on her, small towns and the gossips and all this. So she left town because she couldn't handle everyone kind of thinking she was maybe involved, and the shooter has disappeared. They think she knows where he is. So I think I'm going to continue to, and I threw in Aaron Burke into that story a little bit. He kind of, in a small way, but if readers follow your books, they like those little touches. There's Aaron again. So I've shifted now to doing the intrigue, and I feel like somewhere along the way I might have lost sight of the full question, but
No,
yeah.
this is awesome. I love this because it's really like, how did you get into this and doing what you're doing? And what's interesting is you mentioned that Aaron Burke, right, shows up in this other
Yeah.
series. And there's my husband and I like to watch every night. We'll watch some kind of like Netflix series that's going on. So we'll like 1 hour before bed we watch this and then we go to sleep. And we were watching a show called The Arrow, and The Arrow, it's like a superhero show. And then in The Arrow, this guy would show up and his name is The Flash. And also this Supergirl would show up. And then we went and we watched, after we watched The Arrow, we watched The Flash. We happened to watch that show next. And The Arrow showed up in The Flash, and so did Supergirl. And then in Supergirl, The Flash, so it's really like kind of like what you're saying. And I love that because every time, just like you said, every time they show back up, I'm like, oh, there's so and so. And it just, it feels like you know them. And so I love how you're doing that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What gave you that idea to do that?
Well, I really felt like I put so much into even just creating this small town and this world for the Burke brothers. And then it was just sort of pulled out from under me. So I thought, well, why can't I still incorporate that and have a suspenseful element? So there's a whole big story that happens with my first intrigue. The second one is still going to be set in the same place, and I'm going to see how I can maybe bring the characters in. So now I think maybe for the next book, one of the brothers, there might be some level of danger to him. So I've got to figure that out. But it's about kind of now, how can I shift them from having been in sort of the sweeter small town romance into, let's throw some intrigue and some danger as they're falling in love, which works for me. I'm happy to do that.
That's
I think
so
you asked,
cool.
The Reverend is something that I'm publishing myself, and that's going to go on sale soon. But so that's
awesome.
done. Yeah, and that's a little bit different. It's kind of Bad Reverend. lots of gossip and scandal in the church. Like, who doesn't love that? Do you see, that he's supposed to be pious and he's powerful and he's got a lot of secrets and, secrets someone is willing to kill for. So that's kind of a fun little thing I'm starting on the
Ooh.
side where I'm going to have continuing stories that will go along with that.
Oh, that's good. Secrets somebody is willing to kill for. Oh my gosh. Okay, that
Yeah.
is good. You can find her at author Kaylaperrin.com. That's author KaylaPerrin.com. Go find her there. She's got all her books over there. And so it's interesting because here you are, writing these books, moving into different genres,
Yep.
because like you found that those are great genres to move into. But you know that there was a video game, I guess, called, I don't know if it's still around, but it was called Second Life, where you create your own life outside of your own life. Like it's on all on
Oh,
computer. And as you were talking about, you built your own town,
yeah.
basically. And so you're doing that. You are creating that second life of this story of all these different people. So how do you keep everybody straight? How do you remember whose personality is like what and who's doing how do you I don't know if I could do that. I mean, I guess I could if I would learn how. But yeah, how do you keep it all straight?
You know what? I think it's the one thing that I do pat myself on the back for is that I have a very good memory and I like to exercise that memory. So, for example, I don't know if you have a bulk store where you can go and buy stuff and you put the numbers on them. Every time I go into the bulk store, no matter what I buy, I just say, this number is like 649, this one's 7319. And I kind of keep repeating it. And there was one time that one of the cashiers kind of was upset when I was reciting the numbers. She's like, well, I know the numbers. I said, yeah, but this is how a way I keep my brain active. Like, why are you mad about this? Others seem to be impressed. So sometimes I might miss a detail, but thank God for computers because I can go and just access a file. So I'll often try to write down, this is what Aaron looks like. This is this part of the town. And I've just learned that there's a way to even build a map for your town. So I think that's what I'm going to want to do. So I remember, okay, yeah, the coffee shop is at Elm and Main, just have those details clear. But there are other options like something called Plotter. I'm just starting to try to learn that because that also gives you an avenue to have everything in one place where what do the characters look like? What's the town like? So just for easy reference, especially for a series.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Plotter is like Plotter, I assume.
It's with plottr.com.
Oh, they're doing that a lot now on all these different
I
websites.
know.
Like Flickr,
Yes.
Flickr. Okay, that's not
Yeah,
how I normally would spell that. So I guess
exactly.
they're trying to drop the vowels or something like that. I don't know. I don't trying to save space.
And there's
But
a
that
30-day free trial right now too for Plotter to see if it works for you.
okay.
And they give you templates for even different kinds of stories. If you're writing a romance, if you're writing a mystery,
Ah,
yeah, and kind of like the beats you should hit in your story. All of that stuff I kind of just do intuitively. So I'm trying
mhm.
to see if it works for me, but I'm kind of like I've done this for so long, I kind of know how I want to do it. But that doesn't mean I can't, find another way. But anyway, if you're
Yeah.
struggling and you really want something to help you, I think it looks like it's a great app to have.
Okay, that's good. Those Plotter, no E, no E. So check that out and see if it's going to help you with your stories. You never know. You never know if something we get ideas, suggestions a lot, right? So we try it,
Yeah,
we see if it works. If it doesn't, we let it go. And if it works, awesome. But at least
exactly.
somebody told us about it. Yeah. So I'm so happy for you. This is exciting. I've never interviewed somebody, wrote these types of books. It was funny because when I saw romance, I was like, should I stay away from this?
Did
Because
you
it's
do an
not
eye roll? Come on, did you go? Oh God, no.
I didn't do that, but I might have had I thought more. No, no, it's just it's not my thing. It just never has been. And romance is not it's just not my thing. And so I thought, you know what? But she's got, the suspense and the thriller, the horror and all that junk. So I'm gonna bring her on. And this it's just
Yeah.
exciting to see somebody like you have these ideas and then the creative brain that just comes and brings these ideas and then you put it down on paper. How long what's the longest it's taken you to write
Whew.
any, and what's the shortest of your
Okay. Now,
novels?
yeah, I think the shortest was 6 weeks, and it was a big book. This book is called The Sisters of Theta Phi Kappa. I love this book so much. And it's about four friends who were sorority sisters at college, and a secret comes back to haunt them and threaten the lives of one of these sorority sisters. And this book just came to me. I think I was thinking about it for a while, because I don't know what it is for me. The idea of like sitting down and doing an outline of like 100 pages just seems like too much work. So I kind of rather sit down and start writing, but I'm thinking the story through all angles at all times. So when I sat down to write, I pretty much wrote that from the beginning to the end. And it was like a 525 page book. And my editor just loved it. I don't know how, I think it took me about 6 weeks to get it on paper, and then 6 weeks, I was completely done, like written, revised, and it was good. And then the next one that I thought, okay, that came so easily. The next one was called The Delta Sisters, 3 generations of mothers and daughters in Louisiana, and a secret comes back to haunt grandma after 50 years. I could not get through this. Like I knew my opening, I knew the murder mystery that was going to be in there, and I got stuck. And it took me over a year to write that one. But when it finally came together, I think it was the third part of the story, like the daughter story, because some of it takes place like 40 years earlier. There's the murder that had happened 50 years earlier, and it's kind of a layered story. And I just couldn't figure out the daughter's story in present day and to connect it all. And then I finally did, but that one took me a lot longer. So, sometimes you think, why can't I just force these characters to do something? Because I'm the author. And yet there are times when if they don't speak to you, if you force it, it's going to be wrong. So I just had to let that mull over in my mind until it became clear. So, I still love that book as well. And that one was 550 pages when I finished it. So just about the same length as the Sisters of Theta Phi Kappa, but one was much easier to write.
But isn't that interesting? And that, because like you said, things, sometimes things do flow, and sometimes there's some sort of blockage and the flow just stops,
Yeah.
and there's so many different methods to get through that blockage. So what are some of the things that you do because you said the one took 6 weeks, the other one took, a little over a year. What were some of the things that you did to help you to get through that blockage and to keep it, get back on track?
Well, one of the things that I like to do, and I do find helpful for the most part, is I will jump ahead to a different scene in the story that I know I want to write. So even as I was writing the Delta Sisters, I had the beginning done, but I knew that there was, some of the element with the suspense, how I wanted that to play out in the future part of the book. So I started to write that. So I have that together. Then I might write a different scene that I feel inspired to write. And when it comes to putting the book together, sometimes it's like a bit of a puzzle. Okay, this is going to go here. This is going to go here. But if you just stay stuck where you are, you're never going to get anything advanced. So at least write what you know at the time. And when you feel inspired to write it, if it's not sequential. So that helps.
Do you write daily? Is this a kind of practice that you do?
Well, you know what I'm going to say? I'm a horrible procrastinator, and I work best with a deadline chasing my behind. But lately, in the last few weeks, I just attended an online conference called InkersCon, and I said, you know what? Let me get back to writing daily. Let me do this, because with the pandemic and everything, you can just get distracted, and it was easy to be like, oh, it's a nice day. Let me go for a walk. Let me wait to be inspired. I love to go to like Starbucks or somewhere with my laptop, and then that was taken away from me. And I kind of fell into not necessarily doing my routine the way I wanted. So now I'm like, you know what? No excuses. Write daily. But I mean, the good thing with me is that when I do sit down to write, I can write a lot. So I try not to beat myself up. But vacation time's over.
That's why it's time to get back into that.
It's time to get back. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. And you have these 2 books here, Undeniable Attraction, A Second Chance for Love. Where do you find the models, and are these your models, or how do you come up with the covers and stuff?
Well, the covers for these were chosen by the publisher. So Undeniable Attraction, my editor sent me a few different choices, and I loved this one. The leg up, shoe in the air. I said, this is a cover unlike your typical sort of embracing cover. And I'm like, I want this cover because I think this one's pretty hot. So I got that choice. As for A Second Chance at Love, the editor found that one. This was a Mother's Day themed anthology of romances set in a small town, and it's going to be the first of a series of books we're going to be creating around the fictional town of Sea Glass Bay. So she found something with the couple on the beach and the sand and the sea glass in the picture. And basically that cover, she asked us for our input and we gave a little bit. And sometimes you get you get choices to refuse things, like the editors will give you a wide range, or they'll say, we were thinking we want to go in this direction. And with my agent, we might say, no, we like this direction better. For example, a book of mine called Spring Break. And now while I write, I'm African American, and I write these characters. Spring Break features a blonde girl who's one of the friends who goes missing on a spring break vacation. And the first covers they gave us did not have a blonde girl on the cover. And we said, what's this attitude that you have to have only Black characters or only white? Like, it's 20, like whatever year it was. Like, we're well into the future here beyond this. So they put the missing girl, Ashley, whom you don't know is missing until you start reading the book. She's front and center in the cover with two of her best friends. And I love that cover. And it just makes sense. So that they listened to us on, and I think that was good.
I love how you remember all your books. I mean, I'm impressed with that alone. I mean, that's just, I can't remember all the things I do. Yes.
Can I tell you a quick story? Somebody was talking to me about one of my storylines, and she's like, yeah, remember that book you wrote where the girl, she went over to Japan, she was teaching for a year? I'm like, no, that's not my book. She's like, yeah, that was your book. And she wanted to describe more, and none of it sounded familiar. And then it clicked. I'm like, oh my God, that was my first book. And I'd completely forgotten that, yes, part of the character's story had been that she had gone for a year to teach English in Japan, I guess, after her breakup. And then she kind of reconnects with this guy. So I thought, oh, I did forget one of my stories, but it can happen.
Yeah. Well, with so many also, right? It's not like you've only written, one or two novels. You've written many. And when you wrote your first novel, you wrote the first one. Do you remember what it felt like to finish it and then to get it published? Do you remember that at all?
It was the most exciting and most fulfilling feeling in the world. First of all, I had gone to a Romance Writers of America conference, and it was my first time going there, and I was able to meet with various editors, Harlequin, Random House, big companies, and then there came this small company looking for authors to talk to named Genesis Press. So I was allowed to pitch them an idea, and I just came up with an idea on the spot, and they said to me, oh, this sounds fantastic. Is the book written? And I said, yes, I'm just revising it. Of course, I had not even started it. And I went home and kind of wasted 2 weeks. I think they said to me they'd love to see it by the beginning of September, and that was maybe mid-July. And I went home and kind of wasted a week or so not even writing. And then my mother finally said, well, why don't you try them? They're a small publisher. This might be your foot in the door. So then I sat down like a deadline and I started writing. And then I realized I was not going to be able to finish it by, like, let's say September 5th. So I sent them a message saying, please, I'm still working on the book, just revising, can I have a little more time? And they're like, oh, absolutely. I was thinking they were like waiting at the clock, when's this book coming in? But of course they weren't. In any case, between that point, I thought I'd hear from them sort of quickly. I had no clue how the business really went. But maybe a month went by, a second month went by, and I was at my writers group in Toronto. And they said, I was kind of feeling down, like I haven't heard about this. Maybe they don't like the story. And one woman said to me, well, you went about this the entire wrong way. You should have joined a critique group first. You should have gotten other people to read your stuff. Then you should have sent something out. Like, you might have sent out something that was completely crap. And that put me in a bad mood because I was like, I didn't feel like that. And then we had a guest speaker that day, and she saw that I was a little down as I was talking to her, and I explained the situation. And she said to me, your picture is going to look great on a book cover. And it was just that little boost I needed. And from someone who just understood probably what it was like to be nervous about your first book going out. And lo and behold, a few weeks later, I got the call. They wanted the book and they were offering me a 2-book contract. So it was kind of like poo-poo on you, you naysayer in the group. You know how groups are, right? You've got the positive people and you've always got that negative Nancy, whatever. But I did get the contract on the first book that I'd ever submitted as a romance. And there's no feeling like it. It's really a sense of accomplishment.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, that naysayer, they are out there. They
Oh
are out there
God,
all over
yeah,
the place.
yeah.
There's probably somebody watching right now is like, they're full of crap, but it's
Absolutely.
okay. And that here's the thing that I've learned is that they can be those naysayers all they want. It's up to us to not take it personally, right? It's up
Yeah,
to us to say, thank you for your opinion. Thank you.
yeah.
And
And
then just
remember, it's
move
an
on.
opinion,
Exactly. Yeah. Even
because I've
even if
known
they do know
people
what
to,
they're doing.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've known
because
people to
even
put projects down, sorry, because of naysayers and they stop working on something. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry about that.
yeah, well, and that's the thing is because they could be extremely successful in what they've done, but maybe they're not on the same path as you, or they don't
Yeah,
have the advice that is really going to be helpful for you. And that's why, like, what I do now is I listen to people. I give them that because I do value people's opinion, whether it is agreeing with me or not, but
right.
I get to decide what I'm going to do with it. And that way I have that power. Like, I'm now empowered to make a decision. Oh my gosh, it's 26 minutes. We are over our time. But what I want to do, Kayla, is I always like to ask my guests one final question. And first, if you want to, find her books, very exciting. I love what you're doing. Your work sounds fascinating. Go to author Kaylaperrin.com. Go check out her books. It's KaylaPerrin, author Kaylaperrin.com. Check her out, subscribe to her, go find her wherever she is and just hunt her down because she might write a story about you.
That's
So
right.
what the question I love to ask every single guest is because this is Women Action Takers. My show is all about women action takers, and you are definitely an action taker. Even though you procrastinate, you still do take action though, because there's a lot of us who, like, I'm a recovered procrastinator. I shouldn't
Okay.
say fully. I'm not fully recovered, but I'm working on that. But we still take action. And so what is one action step our audience can take today, tomorrow, or next week to propel their personal and or professional life? One action step.
As much as I'm not a plotter, I would say write down the steps that you want to take. Or, like, for example, if you know that you want to write a book and you think it's going to be daunting to write 300, 500 pages, sit down and plan to write 1 page a day. 1 page a day. At the end of the year, you have 365 pages. It's not a huge commitment. And you're going to find that as the next day goes on, it's easier to write the next page, easier to write the next page. Allow it to be bad. Don't get into your head and start to criticize. Just allow yourself to do whatever it is. So if it's not writing, but it's a goal for something else, write down whatever it is you need to do towards that goal and take that small step and then take the next small step. See it as a step at a time as opposed to this huge project. When you look at it as a big project, it can seem overwhelming, but one step at a time is manageable.
That's for sure. I love that. It's so true, right? We have to take that first step in order to get the results that we want to get. So I love that idea of just doing 1 page at a time. Most
Yeah,
likely you'll be inspired and do more than one,
that's
but
right.
it's really about sitting down and doing that. And Rebecca, thank you so much for commenting. She says, "Thank you for the insightful interview." And I just thought this was really great, and getting to know you and what you're all about. And congratulations again for finding that zone, right? That zone, and just
Yeah.
getting in there and really, really killing it. And you're doing amazing work, and you're putting out so many different books that are, people are, getting these. It's like putting them into a fantasy world. And I think, especially today, we could really use more of that. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. You being here and showing up for this show and inspiring and motivating others to take action in their life. So you heard it right here. Go and just take one step take one step first. Write 1 page a day. Make a commitment to yourself to write 1 page a day and see what happens. Thank you so much, Kayla, for being here. Oh, everybody, don't forget to subscribe to the Women Action Takers on YouTube. We're in the process of growing our YouTube channel, and we can't do it without you. So go to youtube.com/women action takers and subscribe today. Thank you so much again today, Kayla, for being here and for being part of my world. Everybody have a great day now.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, Lynn.